Hello students, welcome to Unacademy platform. In this platform you have daily live classes, structured courses, live test quizzes and unlimited access on subscription. You have this Unacademy learning app and all the structured classes, daily live classes and live quizzes all are available in this very platform. This is about me and this is my Unacademy link and this is my Telegram link. So you can ping me here if you have any doubt, any question uh, in my lectures. Okay, so along with me these are the top educators on Unacademy. You can go and find the courses offered by them. These are the different plans to subscribe. If you go with plus plan, you have this live classes, test series, unlimited practice and structured schedule. Now if you choose iconic, then you have personal coach, daily mains, question answer practice, study planner and personalized feedback. Okay, now these are the different plans for subscription of different durations. Now all these are available at 10% discount if you use this very code, that is Amit PS. These are different optional subjects which are available on the platform, and this is the optional that I'm taking. Okay. Now again, these are the different subscription plans for different durations, and you can choose according to your requirement. These are available at 10% discount if you use this very code, that is Amit PS. Okay, now coming to the lecture part. Today we are going to start Hobbes. Okay, and he is going to be the fourth political thinker. So we have completed Plato, Aristotle, and Machiavelli. And Hobbes is our fourth political thinker that we are going to study. Okay, so this is the time period of Hobbes. And now again we are going to see the space and time as we do in every thinker. So this was the time English War of 1640 which was going on. Okay, when during the time when Hobbes was philosophizing or coming out of his theory, and the rough and tumble that was going on in the world of politics actually led to the execution of King Charles I. Okay, and after some time, there has been the publication of De Guy, which is the most philosophical work of Plato, of Hobbes. I'm sorry, of Hobbes. Okay, but from our point of view, that is political thought is what we are interested in, and that is why for us it is the Leviathan which is going to be the most important one. Okay, so it is Leviathan that we have got to study in political thought. So from political thought point of view, it is the Leviathan. This is the work of again Plato. Sorry, Hobbes. And Deguy is the philosophical work of again Hobbes only. Now this was also publication of Leviathan is dated in 1651. But before that, a very significant event happened, which is going to change the scenario of Europe and ultimately the world after some time. That is the Treaty of Westphalia in the year 1648. I talked about this very treaty in my Machiavelli's lecture also. But here we are going to see about the details here and now how that is going to affect the socio-political system in Europe and later in other parts of the world. So that is going to have a very lasting effect. Okay, Treaty of Westphalia. So this very time period is important. Publication of how Leviathan is 1651 and 1648 is the Treaty of Westphalia. So here you will see in my lecture that how Treaty of Westphalia is shaping the emergence or shaping the theory uh, and affecting or influencing the thought of this very thinker, that is Hobbes. Okay. Now, then we are going to have a comparative summary, summary of Hobbes, Aristotle, and Machiavelli. So we are going to compare them because, again, if you see the syllabus, first it is Plato, then Aristotle, and then Machiavelli, and then Hobbes. So here, political theory or political thought is actually evolving, okay, in a certain direction. You have seen that how Machiavelli was someone which was called non-medieval, okay, non-medieval. So there were reasons why he is not considered modern thinker. Okay, I discussed all that in my lecture. And but there was a kind of development that took place with his theory if you compare the other theories which were there in medieval times, okay, which had a lot of religiosity in them. So it was mainly the religious philosophy, okay, or you can say the obscurantism, or scholastic obscurantism that was prevalent in that very time, and that was something which was changed by Machiavelli, who was instrumental in giving rise to the secular sphere and also the autonomous nature of politics, uh, which is different from or which is independent of morality and religion. Now, again, you will see a development taking place on that front. Okay, you will see the secularization of politics taking place again, but in a more broader form. Okay, so that is going to have again a lasting impact, and that again is going to be built upon, that again is going to be improved with the next thinker, that is Locke. Okay, so that kind of comparative summary we are going to see here, and that is going to be very enlightening. Okay, so if you pay full attention, again we are going to see what Aristotle has got to say, or what Aristotle was saying, and how Hobbes is going to be Hobbes is going to be completely different in his approach when it comes to the most basic things of human nature and existence and all. Okay, you will see all that. And how Machiavelli has played an important role in the development or the process of development, or how he has created a turf where Hobbes is going to create an edifice. Okay, and later which will be decorated by Locke. So this is the series. This is actually the kind of comparative series that I'm going to have here, and this is going to be very useful in order to have a comparative view of these very thinkers. Okay, so that is going to be very useful. Then we are going to see perspective of Hobbes. Okay, perspective is nothing but the school of thought. So what kind of perspective he adopts? So first is social contract tradition. Okay, so here we are going to see completely new thing. So if you are new to this very subject, you will learn many things about this very thing, that is social contract. Then he is also the father of modern political science. Okay, so from this very philosopher, we can say that modern political thought is emerging. Okay, actually that was initiated by Machiavelli, but Machiavelli is not medieval. He is not modern. So what made Hobbes the father of modern political science? Then we are also going to see the absolutist theory of sovereignty in Hobbes. That is again going to be very important. Then nascent ideology, market economy. Okay, so ideology of market economy is to be found in nascent form in Hobbes, and how that is there we are going to see. Then absolutism and individualism, we are going to analyze and compare them. So these are the things that we are going to cover, and after that we are also going to see that what kind of methodologies we are going to Hobbes is going to adopt. So he is very scientific. Okay, and then kind of deduction is also there. So deductive methodology is also adopted. Okay, where it is also called philosophical method. Okay, all that has been discussed earlier. Philosophical method. Then resolutive compositive method. This is something which is unique to Hobbes. Okay, in if we talk about our syllabus. So now how that is going to be employed by Hobbes, we will see. Then psychological egoism, or the effect of psychological egoism. Okay, how that is prevalent in Hobson theory, we are going to see that. Then ethical relativism is also there, and what is the meaning, and what does it mean, and how it is present in Hobbes theory, we are going to see that. Political absolutism, again, this this is not absolution, it is absolutism. Okay, absolutism. That is what we are going to see in this very lecture. So, what are the main ideas of Hobbes? Okay, ideas on human nature and state of nature. Then natural rights, that is the rights of nature. Then laws of nature. Then covenant and sovereign power. Then theory of sovereignty. Then theory of law, religion and state, individualism, and founding father of liberalism. Why he is called the founding father of liberalism? Okay, now we are going to see all that, his main ideas. Then we are going to evaluate, or we are going to have a critical evaluation. We are going to see whether Hobbes is individualist or absolutist. Okay, and then we are going to evaluate again that the critics uh, who have pointed out Leviathan as a useless book, as a, useless as a book of politics and fruitless as a book of history. We are going to see that who has made this very remark and whether that remark is true or not, whether it is justified to make this kind of statement or not. In okay, we are going to see that in our evaluation part, and then we will see that how Hobbes is the father of revolutionary philosophy. Okay, see this fear and I are twins, or fear and I were born twins. This is the most famous statement of Hobbes. Okay, spelling is incorrect here. It is Hobbes. Hobbes. Okay, now in what context this kind of statement has been made, we are going to see that also. First of all, you see that Treaty of Westphalia, which was signed in the year 1648, it gave rise to emergence of sovereign nation state. Okay, now from this point onwards, we see the emergence of sovereign nation states. Okay, sovereign nation states, which was anticipated, if you are able to recall, anticipated by Machiavelli. Okay, now why we are calling it the sovereign nation state? Because now the centralized power in those very sovereign nation states is going to be unquestioned. Okay, so why it was questionable earlier? Because before this very Treaty of Westphalia, it is the Roman Church who used to enjoy of the power, the domination over over the state, over the politics. Okay, now in a particular state defined by a particular boundary, it is the centralized power which is going to be sovereign. Okay, it is not going to be controlled by any church outside. Okay, so that is why we are saying that it is the emergence of sovereign nation state. It led to the emergence of sovereign nation state. And now the second most important thing is that the head of a state is now going to be deciding the religion of the state. This is not going to be decided by church anymore. Okay, so church ruling the authority or ruling church losing the authority or the domination over a state, that is something which is being determined by this very treaty, and that is why it is very crucial, very important. Okay, it is a watershed, you can say, in European history, and the effect of that will pan global after a time. Okay, what is the ultimate aim of humans according to Hobbes? This you will see that ultimate aim of humans according to Hobbes. If you recall Aristotle, what is the ultimate aim of humans? I told you that Aristotle is actually interested in establishing or finding out good life, okay, or happiness. So this is the ultimate aim of Aristotle. Okay, for Plato it was justice. So justice was the foremost objective of ideal state. For Machiavelli, in this sense, he is very specific, and that is the preservation of state. Okay, so he's not talking much on this very philosophical part or in philosophical sense that what is the aim of humans. He's actually concerned, very much concerned about the preservation of a state, and that is something we saw in Machiavelli. But what about Hobbes? He is actually going to philosophize a lot. Okay, so there we will see that the ultimate aim of humans, according to Hobbes, is survival. Okay, survival anyhow. Now see this, recall this very statement that we just had, that fear and I are born twins. Okay, actually, he's an English philosopher, and when he was born, a Spanish Armada actually attacked that very place, and that is actually a story which is not making him fearful. It is actually the concern. Okay, the other turbulence that is going on during his time, that is going to have a lasting impact over his mind. Okay, a very deep impact over his mind, where he's concerned about the security or the survival of humans. Okay, so the story attached that Spanish Armada attacked that very reason, and that is why and during that time, actually, Hobbes was born, but this is not because of the Spanish Armada attack. Okay, it is because of other bigger picture that was going on during his time. Okay, and that was actually scary. Okay, so he has seen the turbulence in the politics. Okay, and that is actually the reason why he is saying, and that is actually the reason why he is going to theorize on those very lines where security and cyber survival are the main concerns here. Okay, we are going to see all that in good detail in this very lecture only. Okay. So for him, security and survival are the main concerns. Okay. And self-preservation. Security, survival, self-preservation. And it is survival, it is not just survival. It is survival anyhow. Okay. So survival becomes the first objective here. And why there is so much insecurity? That is something that we are going to see here. Okay. And self-preservation. He was born in 1588, the year English naval forces drove back invasion of his famous Spanish Armada. He grew up in declining period of Elizabethan era and educated in Oxford. He was well educated, okay, in formal education. And after graduation, he entered into the service of an aristocratic family as a private teacher. Okay, so this is actually the famous Spanish Armada, which is actually referred as the reason. Okay, but that is not actually the reason. There are other things which are going on in that period in England and in English region, and that is why he is theorizing on those lines that we are going to see in this very lecture. During 1640s, the period that witnessed the civil war in England, see these are the actual conditions. During 1640s, the period that witnessed the civil war in England and execution of King Charles I, Hobbes left England along with the various other philosophers to live in France while the war went on. Okay, so the political conditions, the conditions, social political conditions in England are such that he needed to leave his homeland. Okay, so this is to be noted here. Then he spent a great deal of time reflecting upon the causes of war. Okay, upon the causes of war and the disorder. Okay, his first treatise, I told you that this Decaive is the most important philosophical work of Hobbes, although we are not going to study Decaive in our lecture. Our concern or our um, concern is with Leviathan. Okay, that is something where he comes out with his political thought, and that is why that is where we are interested in. Okay, his first treatise, that is Decaive on the citizen, was published in the year 1642, which was a kind of draft version of Leviathan, but it is philosophically completely different. That was published in the year 1651. Okay, now see, as the author of the first greatest work of political theory written in English language, he is the first actually great English scholar or thinker. Okay, he was the master of English style of prose. Okay, he was also the master of English style of prose. He lived at a time when the modern system of state government was beginning to emerge. Modern system of state government means, again, a system where centralized authority is not going to be dominated by religion. Okay, there will be a secular sphere of polity. Okay, and there will be a kind of legitimacy which is emerging, which is to be established with the backing of people. So people's voices are going to matter more and more. Okay, with this very time on. 3 years before the publication of Leviathan, signing of Treaty of Westphalia, okay, this is 1648, brought an end to more than a century of religious war, Protestant Reformation movement that had been ignited by Protestant Reformation. Okay, so this is actually not 1548, this is 1648. Okay, we have already discussed that. So, signing of treaty, it brought an end to what? To more than a century of religious war, that is Protestant Reformation movement. And this is actually the Reformation that is one of the major events in European history. You must be knowing about it. If you don't know, you should Google it. Okay, that had been ignited by Protestant Reformation. Now, Treaty of Westphalia ratified two decisive features that would be given powerful expression by Hobbes. Okay, so what are these two features and the two decisive features which are to be found in the theory of Hobbes? Okay, in much more detail. So you will see those two features developing in his theory. Okay, or finding expression, a full expression in his theories. And what is that? Treaty declared that individual sovereign state would henceforth, from this very time, become the highest level of authority. Okay, so before that, who was the highest level authority? Church, Roman Catholic Church, putting an end to the universalist claim of Holy Roman Church. Okay, each state was to be sovereign and have its own authority. Each state was to be sovereign and have its own authority. Head of the each state would have right to determine the religion of the state. So first is that highest level authority कहाँ है? Sovereign states के पास, individual sovereign states के पास, they will be having the highest level of sovereign authority. Okay, now till this very moment, who was having the highest level of sovereign authority? There was actually no highest level of sovereign authority except this Roman Church, which enjoyed domination over different polities. Each state was to be sovereign and have its own authority. And if you recall, now this is the second feature, that head of the each state would have the right to determine the religion of the state. Now this is very remarkable. Okay, it is actually remarkable in the sense that it is breaking, or it is marking the emergence of a completely new era. Okay, so emergence of sovereign nation states is associated with the Treaty of Westphalia. Now, this very treaty is going to lead is will lead to the creation of nation states as we know them in present times. And after the emergence of nation states in Europe, you will see the coming of, or the emergence of, or the time of colonialism. And those nation states which emerge there are going to be the colonial masters. Okay, and there will be a time when these colonial masters are going to colonize the whole world, and this very idea of nation state is going to spread to the other parts of the world also. So, nation states, or the idea of nation state, or the existence of nation states at present time is something again which looks very common sense to you. Okay, so it is something which is of a common sense to you, but this actually emerged only after 1648. Okay, and during this period, this was actually a revolutionary idea. Okay, Hobbes carried out what Machiavelli. See, understand, these very things are very important. Again, we have started actually comparing Aristotle, Machiavelli, Hobbes. We are going to put them into perspective so that you would be able to understand where Hobbes is coming from and on what turf he is building his own, okay, architecture. Hobbes carried out what Machiavelli had helped him to make possible. So what Hobbes is going to do, he could do so only because some turf has already been created by Machiavelli. Okay, so you will be able to guess it that this is about secularization of politics, okay, and autonomous nature of politics, then a kind of autonomy that is being attached to politics and the state, and that's why moral indifference, then uh, also the negation of religion and all that. So this is actually which is being pointed out here. Machiavelli discovered a kind of new continent. So he discovered a new continent, a kind of new continent. Okay, and that continent is actually the autonomous nature of politics, autonomous sphere of politics, secular sphere, all that. And it was Hobbes who made this new continent habitable. Okay, now again in that very turf of secular sphere, of autonomous sphere, Hobbes is going to make it habitable. Hobbes is going to make that very continent habitable. How? By coming out with an scheme which could be implemented to ensure that that very that the autonomous nature of state actually continues. Okay, Machiavelli speaks of the prince while Hobbes speaks of the sovereign. Yes, you have seen Machiavelli speaking of the prince, but now Hobbes is going to be speaking of sovereign. That you will see. Hobbes' method seems scientific, okay, formal, and analytical. That you will realize, okay, after a time. In contrast to Machiavelli's combination of historical commentary and reflection drawn from the personal experience. So, yes, uh, you have studied Machiavelli and now you know that it is not, or Machiavelli's theory or Machiavelli's thoughts are not actually philosophy. They are more of a nature of commentary. So you will find his thoughts more like commentary on government or the art of government rather than the philosophy. And he uses, although he is going to be scientific or empiricist in his approach, but he mainly uses historical method. Okay, that is citing the history as something which is going to make or going to help him to make some credible arguments or credible theory building. So historical method is going to inform his theory building or theorization, and reflection drawn from the personal experience that was also evident because what he saw, that what Machiavelli witnessed during his time was again a very turbulent period in the political history of Italy, and that actually shaped his opinion regarding politics. Okay, while Machiavelli often spoke about supplying cruelty, Hobbes speaks in language of power politics. Okay, Machiavelli's emphasis upon arms is considerably weakened by Hobbes' emphasis on laws. So what Machiavelli emphasized was on arms. Okay, that is power or despotic rule, if you recall. Hobbes tried to make acceptable what Machiavelli had done by providing a more precise, more legal institution framework of modern state. So, what Machiavelli was proposing in that very era, it was so crude in its form and structure that it is not going to be acceptable. Okay, so what is being referred here? The very despotic rule that he's referring to, or he has actually favored in order to make sure, or in order to make sure that preservation of state is achieved. Okay, or in order to make sure that religion does not guide the politics. Okay, all that is going to be made acceptable by the more legal institutional framework of modern state that is coming out with Hobbes. Like other revolutionaries who had overthrown Aristotelian paradigms in natural science, Hobbes set out to undermine the authority of Aristotle in political science. Okay, so this is the time period when various scientific inventions are being made. Okay, and various tools are going to be constructed or made which are going to make or which are going to help in making more acute and more correct observation of nature and outside world, that is space. Now, in this very process, many of the theories of Aristotle, we have studied his political thought, but you also know that he has theorized on biology, on astronomy, on everything. Okay, he has given his own laws of motion, which were negated by Newton. So here it is being said that all those theories, all those scientific claims which were made by Aristotle about laws of motion, say for example the movement of astral bodies. Okay, so for example the movements of planet, okay, and sun, all those very claims are being refuted by the scientist in these very during this very period. That became possible, again I told you, only because till this very moment, this very time, new inventions were made, new instruments and tools were made, which made the observation more acute. Okay, so which actually made it possible to observe the outer space, the space and the nature even more acutely and more closely. Now, the same thing that you see in case of science or in the field of science, that all the Aristotelian premises are being refuted by the scientists like Newton and Galileo and all. The political the political science that actually Aristotle built is going to be destroyed completely or to a good extent by Hobbes. And now what it is being referred here is this, that Aristotle's idea of good life, Aristotle's emphasis over the purpose of life, Aristotle's again idea why the state exists, all those things are going to be destroyed by Hobbes, just as or in the similar way as we see in case of his scientific theories which were destroyed by scientists like Newton and Galileo. So Hobbes is going to destroy Aristotelian political science or Aristotle's ideas on state, on purpose of existence and all that. Hobbes finds Aristotle's political science of virtue as absurd, repugnant, and ignorant. Okay, so according to Hobbes, Aristotle's political science, which focused on virtue, okay, good life, happiness, fulfillment, and fulfillment of the material needs with the formation of a state being state being the ultimate institution because it fulfills only under a state one's complete life is going to be realized. Okay, all those things are going to be destroyed. Okay, so Hobbes finds Aristotle's political science of virtue as absurd, repugnant, and ignorant. Hobbes sets out to give materialistic and non-teleological physics of human nature. Now, in Aristotle, all those statements, all those big claims that state is prior to individual, and all those teleological methods that he adopted to establish those claims are going to be destroyed by Hobbes. Okay, so that is why it is being said that Hobbes sets out to give materialistic and non-teleological physics of human nature. Okay, the non-teleological science of human nature. Non-teleological science of physics of human nature would mean that here, when Hobbes tells you about the human nature or tells you about the formation of a state or the coming of the sovereign, he is not saying that some teleological, some telos or ends are going to be achieved with this very formation or telos are there to be achieved. No, it is just about survival for Hobbes. So, why Hobbes finds Aristotle to be ignorant? Because Hobbes says, you can say that Hobbes actually seems to be saying that Aristotle is completely ignorant in the sense that he does not know that the first question in the existence of humanity or for the existence of humans is the question of survival. and not of good life and not of happiness. The first question, the first challenge as we humans face in our existence is that how to make sure that we survive. Okay, that is why he calls Aristotle ignorant. Okay, and why Hobbes is thinking on those lines, that is what we are going to study here. Aristotle argues that all the actions are goal oriented. Okay, all actions aim at preservation or change making, something better or preserving it from becoming worse. You have seen Aristotle doing that. So, what Aristotle is arguing that all the actions are goal oriented. If you recall all those very claims that nature does nothing in vain, okay, so all the things that are happening in nature has a purpose and all that. So, all the actions are goal oriented. All actions aim at preservation or change, making something better or preserving it from becoming worse. So, what Aristotle is actually trying to say here is this, and we have seen that in his theories, that he is of the opinion that things are leading to something which he calls telos, okay, the ends. And those ends are actually the perfection, okay, the excellence. Those are the ends here. And things are moving in that very direction. On the other hand, Hobbes believed that the overriding motivation of human behavior is largely negative. Okay, not to desire too good, but to do some evil. Okay, not to desire to do good, but to do some evil. That is something which is basic to human nature, according to Hobbes. Okay, it is not about human nature is not about intending to do certain good things or making things better or at least preserving them from becoming worse, all that is not something which is essential to human nature. Okay, what is essential or inherent or what is actually the important characteristic of human nature is this, that it is guided by this very motivation to do some evil rather than good. So again, he is destroying Aristotle. Okay, completely negating him. Okay, so again here, see here, it is again interesting. For Aristotle, human beings have goal or telos, as I told you, to live in a life, to live a life in a community for sake of human nourishment. Okay, that is good life, happiness, all that is actually the aim. When you read Aristotle, it seems as if things are happening in a direction, or people are making efforts in a direction where they are actually guided by this very motive of achieving the highest possible good that can exist or that is there for humanity. But for Hobbes, things are different. But for Hobbes, people enter into society not to fulfill or protect our rational nature, but rather to avoid greater evil, to avoid death, or to avoid the fear of death. If you recall the discussion that we had about Aristotle's claim that man is a political animal, and there we saw that how Aristotle tries to establish that the very purpose why man comes into a community and then different communities and finally under a state is the achievement of teleos or perfection of teleos or perfection of their life. And what is the test of this perfection? That is good life. And what is good life? Which provides happiness. So things are moving in that direction in Aristotle. Okay. But for Hobbes, people enter into society not to fulfill or protect our rational nature, but rather to avoid a greater evil, that is death. Okay, or at least the fear of death. Because you can be killed anytime. See, Pierre and I were born twins. These all those statements are actually evident in his thinking, in his scheme here. Because you can be killed anytime, one has fear of death. This is what conducts one's behavior in society. This is actually the driver, the very motor of human actions. according to Hobbes. Okay. Now, politics for Hobbes is less a matter of prudential decision of better and worse than it is an existential decision of life or death. See how beautiful this statement is. Politics for Hobbes. See, first of all, what is the politics for Aristotle? Politics for Aristotle is a perfection. It is an attempt to make a perfection or to bring a perfection in your life. Okay, and what is the test of perfection? The test of perfection is achieving our telos. And what is telos? What is the ends? The purpose here? That is good life or happiness. But for Hobbes, see what is happening here. For Hobbes, politics for Hobbes is less a matter of prudential decision of better and worse. So it is not a question of being good or worse. Okay. So when man enter into politics, the situation, the challenge he is facing, according to Hobbes, is not of choosing between good and bad. No. See, if you recall Aristotle, then you found out that he says that under a state, all the material needs of the individual is going to be fulfilled. So the corollary of this very statement would be that if you are not under a state, as a human, if you are not under a state, either you are a beast or you are a god. That is one proposition. But if you are a man and you are not under a state, then that means all your needs are not going to be fulfilled. Yes? Okay? So it is only under the state all material needs are going to be fulfilled. And all material needs are going to fulfill. That means that your fullest potential can be realized, can be actualized only under a state. Now, this is about Aristotle. So, if this is the proposition that he adopts, then that would mean that when a man is standing there, okay, pondering over this very question whether he should enter into the politics or not. Politics here means entering the public life under a state. The question he faces, the challenge he faces, according to Aristotle, is this: that whether he wants a good life or a bad life. If he wants a good life, he comes under a state. That is, he actually participate in the process of the evolution of a state. Okay. So the very state that is actually coming under, he's doing so to ensure that his life becomes good, or so that he could avoid a bad life. So for Aristotle, it is a question of good life and bad life. Okay. But for Hobbes, again, now you will be able to understand this very statement, that politics for Hobbes is less a matter of prudential decision of better and worse than it is an existential decision of life or death. So, so here you make a you find a contrast here. Okay, so Hobbes is going to make a proposition where the very purpose of entering into the politics, or the purpose of politics, is this very question of life and death, whereas for Aristotle it is being good or bad, or getting good or bad. Okay. In Aristotle, it is a question of good or bad because there are state facilities, achievement of ultimate telos. Okay, that is why I'm saying that the very existence of a state there is for fulfillment of telos, that is the good life. Okay, so telos, that is ends. Telos means ends. And what are the ends? Ultimate end is the achievement of good life. So state facilitates the achievement of ultimate telos, that is good life. That is why in Aristotle you say that it is a question of good or bad. Without state, individual will be in worst condition, but under state he will be in a good or better situation. And that is why he enters into the state. But in Hobbesian scheme, you would see that the very reason why he enters into state is not a, is not because of the choice he has between good and bad, but because of another completely different choice, that is life or death. Okay. So for Hobbes, and in many ways also for Machiavelli, yes, also for Machiavelli, it is the extreme situation of life and death, of chaos and war, that come to serve as a norm for political decision making, and also ultimately becomes the reason why anyone would enter into politics or come under the state or will form a sovereign or will come into the social contract, means any kind of endeavor where the ultimate purpose is, any kind of attempt where the ultimate purpose is to come out with a system of politics. Okay, this particular perception and premise is a fundamental challenge and alternative to the Aristotelian political thought. What particular perception? This particular perception, this very question, that why individual enters into a state. Okay, so now again understand, if you are completely new to the discipline, that entering into the state or making a social contract or creation of sovereign or coming into coming under any rule, all these are actually the same thing. That is entering into the arena of politics. Okay, that would mean again what? Entering under any or coming under any political structure or political order, or making a community in the most simple terms, a political community. So why people make political community? These are the two premises which are totally different. For Aristotle, it is because one has to choose between good life and bad life, and for Hobbes, and here it is said that for in many ways for Machiavelli also, and especially for Hobbes, that it is a question or it is a choice between life and death. Okay, now then next comes the perspective, and we are going to see that in our next lecture. If you like the video, then, and if you go for any kind of subscription, you should you can use this very Amit PS code to avail 10% discount. That was all for this very video. Thank you.